please join Representative Doherty in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Shebel, please call the roll.
Representatives Amabile. Representative Amabile is excused. Bacon. Bacon is excused. Baisley.
Yeah, thanks.
Benavidez. Rep. Benavidez is excused. Burnett is excused. Byrd. Bockenfeld. Basenecker.
Here.
Bradfield. Caraveo.
Here.
Carver. Catlin. Cutter. Doherty. Duran.
Check.
Esgar. Exum. Froelich is excused. Geithner. Gonzalez Gutierrez. Gonzalez Gutierrez is excused. Gray. Representative Gray is excused. Hanks.
Here.
Herod. Rep. Harrod's excused. Holtorf. Hooton.
Here.
Judah.
Here.
Kennedy. Kipp. Larson. Lindsay. Lantine. Luck. Lynch. McCluskey. McCormick. McKean. McLaughlin. Michelson Janae.
Present.
Mullica. Rep. Mullica is excused. Neville. Ortiz.
Here.
Pelton. Pico. Ransom. Rich. Ricks. Representative Ricks is excused. Roberts. Rep. Roberts is excused. Sandridge. Sirota. Snyder. Soper. Sullivan. Tipper. Titone. Valdez A is excused. Valdez D. Van Beber. Van Winkle. Weissman. Will. Williams.
Here.
Woodrow. Woog. Young. Mr. Speaker. Mullica's here too.
58 present and 7 excused. We have a quorum. Representative Doherty.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the Journal of Wednesday, March 30th, 2022 be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk.
Members, you have heard the motion that the journal be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. It's Thursday, so the ayes have it. The motion's approved. Announcements and introductions. Representative Will.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's an honor to serve with you.
Honor to serve with you too,
I
Representative.
wanted to come down here today and remind everyone again, it's been a couple of days since I have, that if you're a big game hunter, or you and your family are sportsmen and big game hunters in the state of Colorado, you have to get your applications in by April 5th. So the deadline's coming up. Get her done. Thanks.
Thanks, Representative Will. Representative Byrd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, if it is Thursday, it is finance, even the day after the budget and long bell. So today, upon adjournment, we will be meeting in Committee Room 112 and hearing the following two bills: House Bill 1254 and Senate Bill 77.
Thank you, Representative Byrd. Representative Young.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is only fitting that after finance, we finance the coffee fund. So please deposit.
Thank you, Representative Young. Representative McLaughlin.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
Good morning.
House Education, we have two bills today, 1019 and 1310. So we will see you there. Thanks.
Thank you, Representative McLaughlin. Representative Weissman.
Thank you. Just imagine me as a sharply dressed representative from Denver, and the purpose of this announcement is to say that there is one bill on the Energy and Environment Committee calendar today. That is House Bill 1166 at 1:30.
Thank you, Representative Weissman. Representative Pelton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've got permission to be excused April 8th.
So approved. Representative Titone. Representative Harrod.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, we will be meeting in appropriations tomorrow morning at 8:30. 8:30, be there. And don't forget your jokes.
All right, Representative Woog.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also got excused on April 8th. Permission. Thank you.
So approved. Representative Roberts. I don't know. I don't have a list. Representative Roberts. Let's make sure to connect with the Majority Leader when it comes to excuse absences. Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Business Affairs and Labor Committee, we do not have a committee meeting this afternoon. Enjoy your afternoon off, and we will see you next week.
That seems like too nice of an announcement. Representative Titone.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, today is Trans Day of Visibility, and this is a national and global day where we celebrate transgender people and our accomplishments to society. We continue to see more transgender representation at all levels of society, including government. Last year, Dr. Rachel Levine became the first openly trans person to be confirmed by the Senate to a federally appointed position, which is a wonderful accomplishment. And additionally, today is dedicated to raising awareness of discrimination faced by transgender people worldwide. When I think about this day, I think about trans youth in particular. Many trans youth have been under attack across America with proposed bills that deny them necessary health care or participation in sports or bathroom access. And in some states, families with trans kids are fleeing because policies are trying to rip their families apart. The truth is, trans kids are just like any other kid, and they deserve to be treated as such. We should just let those kids be kids. Because of the growing visibility trans people in many settings have, including people like myself, trans youth are starting to feel like they can be themselves. They're seeing people like themselves in careers they can aspire to. You know, it's a travesty to think that in some parts of our country they can't see themselves, but in other places they can. I'm really grateful to the governor who did a proclamation for today, as well as the President of the United States who did a proclamation for Trans Day of Visibility. Both the President and the governor want to see all of our citizens live with dignity and respect and safety free of discrimination. This is only the second time that any president has acknowledged Trans Day of Visibility. I'm really thankful to live in Colorado, and I know a lot of families with trans kids and trans people and gender nonconforming people are also glad to live here. So let's support trans kids and let's support trans families. And if you see someone or you know someone who's trans, reach out to them and tell them you recognize them, you see them, and that they're a valuable part of their society.
Thank you, Representative Titone. Representative Harrod.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I too stand in solidarity with Trans Awareness or Remembrance Day?
This is Visibility.
Visibility Day, which is interesting because we have both. Because we know that trans people are disproportionately targeted and attacked and murdered simply for being who they are. But today we are here to celebrate trans people, especially our trans youth. We know that there are attacks against trans people across this country, against gay people across this country, and in fact, some states have even gone so far as to say that you cannot say gay, much less trans. But I'm here to tell you that that is not the case in Colorado. Stonewall was started by a group of drag queens and trans people who stood up and said no more attacking us for being who we are and living how we do. But they have been left out of society in the conversation for too long around LGBT rights, but not in Colorado. When Colorado passed inclusive laws to protect people regardless or because of their gender identity or sexual orientation, we did not leave trans out of the mix like other states did. We have always been inclusive. But that representation has not always translated, inclusiveness has not always translated into the representation that we need. And so today, while we honor the visibility of trans people, I think we have to give extra honor and kudos to our first trans member of the General Assembly, Breonna Tattone. I have seen firsthand young trans people come up to Representative Tattone in tears, saying, "Thank you for being who you are, and thank you for showing me that I can be who I want to be." It's a true honor to serve with Representative Tattone. It's a true honor to see how she inspires others. And to all of those trans youth and trans people out there, we want you to know, as a Colorado General Assembly, that we see you, we embrace you, and you are safe here in Colorado.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I can't add much more than that. I just wanted to speak as a former director of an LGBT youth group, and to actually see how far we have come, and to have those same kids now be adults and being amazing role models for even newer youth. It's just been so incredible to see how that support, how that visibility has actually strengthened them and strengthened their lives and moved them forward to becoming amazing human beings. When we talk about suicide rates, we need to talk about why those suicide rates are the way they are. And when we are able to show kids that they can move forward and be exactly who they are and be successful and be happy, I think that's incredible. So I too want to just give a bunch of kudos to you, Representative Tattone, for being an outstanding example of being who you are, and appreciate what you do, not only for the people of Colorado, but your visibility to youth around the United States. Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Majority Leader. Any other announcements or introductions? Oh, Majority Leader Escar.
You have it? Yeah. Okay. Sure.
We have a tribute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a tribute. I asked that to be read at length.
Mr. Schiebel.
State of Colorado. The House of Representatives convened in the 73rd General Assembly hereby commemorates March as Endometriosis Awareness Month. The Colorado House of Representatives recognizes March as Endometriosis Awareness Month. Endometriosis is a uterine inflammatory disorder that causes irregular and heavy menstrual cycles, digestive problems, infertility, and chronic pain. Though many may have never heard of endometriosis, it is one of the most common gynecological conditions, affecting 1 in 20 people globally. The lack of information on this condition causes people experiencing symptoms to often go misdiagnosed or ignored, forcing on them an ultimatum of continuing to live with the pain or undergo a hysterectomy. For those who have been diagnosed, it can take 3 to 11 years between their first symptoms and receiving the proper diagnosis, which leads to lower quality of life and high medical costs. Endometriosis Awareness Month recognizes those who suffer from this condition and the hardships that can come with this disorder. It also increases education in hopes of improving the lives of those who experience endometriosis and facilitating a necessary discussion on the discourse of women's health. The Colorado House of Representatives supports the ideals of Endometriosis Awareness Month, recognizes the need for increased education and early detection, and encourages the people of Colorado to observe the month with acute awareness. On request of Representative Danae Esgar, given this 31st day of March 2022, State Capitol, Denver, signed Alec Garnett, Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, please have a seat. This is something that I have thought about doing, I think, almost every year I've been here. and I never moved forward and did it. March was Endometriosis Awareness Month, and I still was debating if I was going to do this tribute or not. Now that it's the last day of March, I figured if it was going to happen, it was going to happen today. So endometriosis is a condition that many of you may know about, many of you may have never heard about. I never knew about it. I just knew that I had incredible pain almost every day of my life, and I went to numerous doctors who passed it off as all in my head. It wasn't until I was probably 20 years old and went to yet another doctor and said, this can't be normal, this can't be right. I physically am ill and cannot get out of bed. There is no way that this is just in my head or this is just what women have to deal with when it comes to their cycle. I still remember the only way to really actually diagnose you with endometriosis is a laparoscopic surgery. And the doctor I was talking to kept pushing back that we didn't need to do it. He finally made an appointment for a surgery for me. He called me the day before and tried to talk me out of the surgical procedure, and I had to push back on him again. Sure enough, we had the surgery done, and I had one of the most severe cases of endometriosis he had ever seen. And he said that to me after. The treatment for endometriosis varies. There's not a clinical diagnosis of how to cure it or how to make you better. There's different ideas out there. There's a lot of research yet to be done, and I'm proud to say since I was 20 years old, a long time ago, a lot more research has come up, but there's still no actual reason they don't know why women have endometriosis. They don't know how to get rid of endometriosis or exactly how to treat it. It also causes infertility issues. It was when I was 20 years old, that same doctor was the doctor who told me, if you ever want to have kids, you better open a savings account because IVF costs a lot of money. That was his treatment for me. Decided to go see another doctor to see how I could actually preserve my fertility and also how to manage the pain that I was dealing with every single day. His advice was I should just pray about it. It wasn't until I was in my 40s, met with the endocrinologist who is actually working on helping my wife and I have a child, who said, you should never have been living with this pain. You absolutely can have a child. Let us help you. I can't tell you how much that changed my entire being, how that changed who I was, just to hear somebody say, I believe you, I know this is real, and we're gonna help you deal with this, and we're gonna help you figure out how to live your life the way you wanna live your life. The reason I bring this tribute is because I wanna remind folks that when you have something going on with yourself and your body, you know that. Keep pushing until you find that provider, that caretaker that will believe you and stand with you and take care of you. I appreciate your time. I know that this is kind of an awkward tribute, but it's really important because there's so many women out there who go undiagnosed, young girls. My first symptoms started when I was 13 years old. Young girls going undiagnosed with this condition and untreated, when really it's something that we can learn to move forward on and take care of. So pay attention. Endometriosis is a real thing. It's something that exists, and it's something that we need to continue pushing for more research on. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Madam Majority Leader. Further announcements and introductions. Representative Michelson Janae. I don't think so.
Oh, tomorrow. Okay.
Assistant Majority Leader Gonzalez Gutierrez.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, we just wanted to come down as the Latino Caucus and just say a few words, an announcement. Today is Cesar Chavez's birthday, March 31st. And although it's not a state holiday, it is a holiday in many other cities and maybe some other states, I'm sure. But we just wanted to share a few words about Cesar Chavez. He was a Mexican-American labor leader and civil rights activist, dedicated his life's work to what he called la causa, the cause, the struggle of farm workers in the United States to improve their working and living conditions through organizing and negotiating contracts with their employers. He founded the National Farm Workers Association, later the United Farm Workers of America, and won important victories to raise pay and improve working conditions for farm workers in the late 60s and 70s. I'm honored to just, mention him today and seeing his activism and work play out in all the work that we do. I know he came to Denver quite a bit, to Colorado, and visited with people here, worked with people here, including my own family members and my grandfather, which I'm very honored to have that legacy. And the last thing I'll leave you all with is a quote that I think is, it always inspires me, and the work that I do is preservation of one's own culture does not require contempt or disrespect for other cultures.
Madam Speaker Pro Tem Benavides.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And members, the only thing I want to add, I was lucky enough to have met Mr. Chavez on a few of the occasions when he did come to Denver. And I worked with some of the representatives from the UFW that came, and in fact, one of my roommates was one of those person that worked for $5 a week to spread that message and on the grape and lettuce boycotts in the late 60s and 70s and into the 80s, honestly. But we did get some of our predecessors did pass a holiday for Cesar Chavez, and it's in our statutes, which allows state employees to swap that out for a different paid holiday if they would like. Other areas like Denver have made it a city holiday, and Denver offices were closed on this past Monday. But I also wanted to let you know that annually, except for a short pause during COVID for a couple of years, there is a mass and a march in honor of Cesar Chavez that takes place in the north side of Denver every year. And this year it's going to be this Saturday, and the mass is going to be at Regis University, and the march will start from there about 10 o'clock, which is right if you go near 53rd, 52nd, and Lowell, and it'll go down Lowell to the Cesar Chavez Park, which is on the corner of 41st and Tennyson. And it's a great community event. I wore this button, which I got in 2002 at the first march that was held. So this is an important event where you can show your support of farm workers, that struggle continues on. I heard of a lawsuit against the state with regard to that today. So this is not a fight that's over, and it's a way to show your support and respect for the work of farm workers. So I hope to see many of you there this Saturday. Thank you.
Representative A. Valdez.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Wow. Members of Energy and Environment, we have committee today. We will meet at 1:30 over in LSBA. See you there.
That's the second E&E announcement today. Representative Weissman let us all know, too. Are there any further announcements or introductions? Seeing none, the next order of business is third reading of bills, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to House Bill 1330.
House Bill 1330 by Representatives McCluskey and Ransom, also Senators Hansen and Rankin, concerning suspending the requirement for a 5-year appropriation for an act that causes a net increase in imprisonment.
Majority Leader Esker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1333 on third reading, final passage.
The question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1333 on third reading and final passage. See no further discussion. Mr. Shebel, please. Sorry, 1330. House Bill 1330. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Williams votes yes. Representative Soper, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Soper votes yes. Representative Hanks, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Hanks votes yes. Representative Hooten, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Hooten votes yes. Representative Caraveo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Michelson-Janae, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Michelson-Janae votes yes. Representative Basenecker, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Basenecker votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Minority Leader McKee.
Sorry.
Please close the machine. With 65 aye votes, 0 no votes, and 0 excused, House Bill 1330 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to House Bill 1331.
House Bill 1331 by Representatives Harrod and Ransom, also Senators Zinzinger and Rankin, concerning supplemental funding for facility schools and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1331 on third reading, final passage.
Question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1331 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Shebel, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Williams votes no. Representative Soper, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Soper votes no. Representative Hanks, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Hanks votes no. Representative Hooten, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Hooten votes yes. Representative Caraveo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Michelson-Janae, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Michelson-Janae votes yes. Representative Basenecker, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Basenecker votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 55 aye votes, 10 no votes, and 0 excused, House Bill 1331 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Representative Michelson-Janae, co-sponsor. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to House Bill 1332.
House Bill 1332 by Representatives McCluskey and Harrod, also Senators Hansen and Rankin, concerning the Office of Economic Development and International Trade's permissible use of money transferred from the Economic Recovery and Relief Cash Fund to the Colorado Economic Development Fund for use in rural Colorado.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1332 on third reading, final passage.
Question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1332 on third reading and final passage. See no further discussion. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Williams votes no. Representative Soper, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Soper votes no. Representative Hanks, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Hanks votes no. Representative Hooten, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Hooten votes yes. Representative Caraveo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Michelson-Janae, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Michelson-Janae votes yes. Representative Basenecker, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Basenecker votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 51 aye votes, 14 no votes, and 0 excuse, House Bill 1332 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Representative Michelson-Janae, co-sponsor. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to House Bill 1343.
House Bill 1343 by Representatives McCluskey and Ransom, also Senators Hansen and Rankin, concerning state revenue retained and spent under the authority conferred by the voter-approved revenue change referendum C.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1343 on third reading, final passage.
Question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1343 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Shebel, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Williams votes no. Representative Soper, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Soper votes no. Representative Hanks, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Hanks votes no. Representative Hooten, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Hooten votes yes. Representative Caraveo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Michelson-Janae, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Mike Sinjane votes yes. Representative Basenecker, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Basenecker votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 44 aye votes, 21 no votes, and 0 excused, House Bill 1343 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to House Bill 1335.
House Bill 1335 by Representatives McCluskey and Ransom, also Senators Hansen and Rankin, concerning a transfer from the Revenue Loss Restoration Cash Fund to the Judicial Department Information Technology Cash Fund.
Majority Leader Eskar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1335 on third reading, final passage.
Question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1335 on third reading and final passage. See no further discussion. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Williams votes yes. Representative Soper, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Soper votes yes. Representative Hanks, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Hanks votes yes. Representative Hooten, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Hooten votes yes. Representative Caraveo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Mike Sinjane, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Mike Sinjane votes yes. Representative Basenecker, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Basenecker votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 65 aye votes, 0 no votes, and 0 excused, House Bill 1335 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to House Bill 1334.
House Bill 1334 by Representative Harrod, also Senator Zenzinger, concerning the collection of an administrative fee from an agency that receives commodities through a food distribution program.
Majority Leader Eskar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1334 on third reading, final passage.
The question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1334 on third reading and final passage. See no further discussion. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Williams votes no. Representative Soper, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Soper votes no. Representative Hanks, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Hanks votes no. Representative Hooten, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Hooten votes yes. Representative Caraveo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Mike Sinjane, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Mike Sinjane votes yes. Representative Basenecker, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Basenecker votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 42 aye votes, 23 no votes, and 0 excused, House Bill 1334 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title of House Bill 1341.
House Bill 1341 by Representatives Harrod and McCluskey, also Senators Zenzinger and Rankin, concerning measures to ensure that the marijuana tax cash fund is in balance.
Majority Leader Eskar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1341 on third reading, final passage.
The question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1341 on third reading and final passage. See no further discussion. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Williams votes no. Representative Soper, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Soper votes no. Representative Hanks, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Hanks votes no. Representative Hooten, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Hooten votes yes. Representative Caraveo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Mike Sinjane, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Mike Sinjane votes yes. Representative Basenecker, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Basenecker votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 41 aye votes, 24 no votes, and 0 excuse, House Bill 1341 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title of House Bill 1342.
House Bill 1342 by Representatives Harridan Ransom, also Senators Hansen and Rankin, concerning the requirement that the interest and income derived from the deposit and investment of federal funds to the state received from the federal coronavirus state fiscal recovery fund be credited to the state emergency reserve cash fund.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1342 on third reading, final passage.
Question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1342 on third reading and final passage. See no further discussion. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine. And members, please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Williams votes yes. Representative Soper, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Soper votes yes. Representative Hanks, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Hanks votes no. Representative Hooten, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Hooten votes yes. Representative Caraveo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Mike Sinjane, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Mike Sinjane votes yes. Representative Basenecker, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Basenecker votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 61 aye votes, 4 no votes, and 0 excuse, House Bill 1342 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title of House Bill 1329.
House Bill 1329 by Representative McCluskey, also Senator Hansen, concerning the provision for payment of the expenses of the executive, legislative, and judicial departments of the state of Colorado and of its agencies and institutions for and during the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2022, except as otherwise noted.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1329 on third reading, final passage.
Minority Leader McKean. Minority Leader McKean.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. We had a robust debate yesterday, as we do, which is our job. And I brought books down today because one of the things we talked about yesterday was sort of the minutia of moving dollars here and there. But I think that there's a slightly larger story to tell when we talk about the budget, and I just want to take a second of your time. This is the narrative from last year. It's a really good book to keep on your shelves, especially when you come to considering what's in the book for this year. And so I do. I try to keep these books around because what I want to be able to do is look back and forth and see what's changing, what's going on. And one of the places I usually dig in is on the FTE side. How many employees are we adding to a division? Because it tells me a lot about the growth of government, and it tells me a lot about the growth of a department. But something jumped out at me, and literally just couldn't believe it, because I was looking at some increases. And that's often the way we have to dig into our budget, because it's a really big budget. It's almost $40 billion. And so if you were to have your books out today, on page 159 of this year's budget narrative, there is a table for the Air Pollution Control Division. And this is underneath the Department of the Public Health and Environment, CDPHE as we affectionately call it. Page 159 is sort of an amazing page, because you go through and you take a look at what the appropriations are, and I often look at the general fund, because the general fund is where we really compete for dollars and where we compete for what the priorities are that we have. And as I tell a lot of people, we do a lot of things really well down here, but really landing on composite, on priorities that we can all agree on is something we don't do well. And here we are. We have a general fund provision in this particular department. And I just want to bring it up because I think it brings to light, I think, where we as a body and as stewards of public dollars need to dig in and pay attention. Page 159 this year was page 137 last year. And the general fund obligation to this air pollution control division was $661,739. I like reverse Polish notation, and I like Hewlett-Packard calculators. And if we take that and we subtract out what this year's budget brought, $661,000 last year from the general fund. This year from the general fund, $45,013,131. So in one division, in one line item, only for the general fund, that is a difference of $44,351,392. To me, that's where we're supposed to really focus in and wonder. And so I called staff, and JBC staff are the best, and I got an answer right back. And the answer I got back was curious, and that's why I want to posit this on the record. The answer I got back was, well, it's a big number because what we really want to do is pay forward several years of obligation in that department. So this morning, you noticed that we took a vote on one of the orbital bills, and that orbital bill was to get rid of a requirement that we calculate the cost of incarceration in out years when we consider a bill. And yet, here in another spot, we're actually dealing with out years as a matter of obligating the general fund. And so I'm here to say these are the kinds of concerns that I really have when we obligate the general fund into out years on the basis of just having enough money right now. And it's one of those places where we don't have enough of a discussion about what that priority really is, partly because none of us, okay, not none of us, 62 of us are not on the JPC, and so we didn't have this conversation. But you heard yesterday the minutia of moving dollars around. I feel like this is the big picture. That when we see a 1,010.1, and don't forget the 0.1% increase in a department's general fund contribution and obligation, we ought to stop a little bit and take a look at it. And yesterday, in the midst of everything else, I didn't think that was the time. I think this is the time to say we're about to vote on a budget. We're about to vote on a budget that changed the obligation from one year to the next of the general fund to one department by 1,010.1%, from $661,000 to $45,013,000. That should be enough to give us pause. And to be honest, to make those phone calls, to find out why. Why is that going on? What's going to be included in that? And to be honest, I can't tell you everything that's included in that. All I know is that it was sort of prepaying future anticipations of need. That gives me enough pause to say I can't vote for a budget with that in it. But truly what it really does is it says when we are flush, and right now flush with dollars borrowed from our great-grandchildren, when we are sitting here on top of federal dollars and increases in revenue coming into the state, maybe that's the time we ought to be even more cautious about what these kinds of changes mean and how they matter. And how they matter to our folks, the folks that sent us here. Because I can tell you that if what we do is increase this budget 1,010%, what happens in the days when we're not flush? How have we expanded a department that's doing something that now has to be supported in years when they're lean times? And so I just put that in front of you as part of where I think our responsibility, my responsibility to this budget comes in. I thank you truly for all the work you guys do. And I say that absolutely with humility, that digging into these numbers and doing the job you do is important. And I try to do my side of that job too, which is just pay attention, read the pages, and come to that. So that one I do have a bit of a question about, and I will probably continue to have a bit of a question about. But thank you for the work you do. And I just put that in your brains. That to me is one of those moments of, hang on, that doesn't seem right. And is that the best financial stewardship going into years when we might have instead of increases, decreases? Thank you very much.
Representative Neville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So in the 8 years I've been down here, we've only seen this document, the numbers in this document grow more and more and more. And I think the problem here is not a simple procedure change or a tactic change. It's bigger than that. It's a strategy change. And that's what we need to look at. See, I see the 8 years I've been down here, we see these little bills that start off as gifts, grants, and donations. And then eventually there's a need for them, and those gifts, grants, and donations dry up. And then next thing you know, we need to fund them, and then we need to fund them even more. Or we'll see a study, and we all know that that study is going to lead to that we need this, we need more funding. And then this year we're using, like the minority leader said, precious dollars borrowed from our grandkids to set up new programs that's going to create the next crisis that's going to be here when I'm long gone, which is not too long from now because that's a year, but I will be gone. You'll have to deal with that. But I encourage you all to look at the strategy differences when we budget. When we bring amendments forward that are accused of just being broad brush amendments, that's because those amendments hold the executive department accountable. And it truly is the executive department that controls these departments. The executive branch can tell his department heads to live within their means. And we haven't done that since I've been down here. And that would be a significant strategy change in how we budget. But instead, it seems like year after year, we partner with the executive branch, we adopt all their policies that they want, and then we come back and we say we need more and more and more. And then all the things that we truly need, like roads and bridges, we come back and we say there's just no steady revenue stream. Yet the revenue as a whole has grown significantly. How many FTEs are we adding in this budget? And I don't know if there's just a difference in philosophy here, but for me, I certainly don't see government as my deity. I don't see the government as the end-all solution for all of society's problems. I do see a role for the government, but I think the government's jurisdiction has grown far too extreme and far too big, and this budget unfortunately just sets it up for a new crisis next year and the year after that we need more revenue, we need more from our taxpayers, and I think we've already taken way too much from them as is. And it's even worse this year when we're spending significant federal dollars. It's probably not even my young kids' money, it's probably their kids' money at this point. And we have to do our part. And I think the only solution to that is a larger solution, that's a strategy change in how we look at and approach the budget. And so I encourage all of you who will be here after I'm gone to adopt that strategy change and truly look at it. And let's hold these department heads accountable and keep them within their means. And not just partner with them and find new ways that we can advocate for more revenue from the taxpayers and new ways that we can justify more spending to create some other need to raise a fee or a tax increase, because that's the strategy that I've seen in my 8 years. And this is the culmination of that strategy in the 8 years I've seen. And for that reason, I urge a no vote.
Thank you, Representative Neville. Representative Van Winkle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And the previous representative from Castle Rock just pointed out that the budget has grown every single year since he's been here. And I'll put some numbers to that. So when I first came into this House chamber, the state of Colorado is smaller in terms of population. We've grown our population over the time that I've been in this chamber by 7.5%. That's a lot of new people coming to Colorado, but the budget, our state budget, over that same time has grown nearly 50%. It's 49 point something percent that the state budget's grown. And I just want to remind the body that we can't spend even a single dime, cent, nickel, dollar on project X, Y, and Z, whether it's rural arts, whether it's whatever that project is. We can't spend that dime unless we first take that from a hardworking Colorado taxpayer, from a Colorado mom, a Colorado dad, from the Colorado families. So to grow the budget essentially 50% in just the last 8 years is troubling, especially when Coloradans are struggling right now at a level and a scale that we haven't seen in the last 8 years. So I urge a no vote on this budget. Let's get it right, and let's give even more money Let's give some money back to the hardworking taxpayers that have given us so much and enabled us to grow this budget 50%.
Representative Holtorf.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When I started in this endeavor, it was 2019. The state budget was around $27 billion. I came to the Capitol and I thought that was a lot of money. I said, wow, we sure spend a lot of money here at the Gold Dome, being a country boy from eastern Colorado. But I listened, I watched, I tried to understand. I listened to the JBC representatives carefully. Now in 2022, 2023, it's at $38 billion. That's $11 billion growth with a B. Now I thought, and listen, well, we've got programs. We've got to support the needs of the Colorado citizens. This is important. So I said, well, let's look at population growth. Population growth in the state of Colorado does not match up with the growth of the budget. Those lines do not follow each other. There's a different trajectory. Now, I'm not going to get into all that. I think it's self-evident if you just they look at the two charts and superimpose one over the other. Then I hear and have heard the last couple of years, well, we've got ARPA dollars. We've got this money from the federal government. We're going to leverage that. We're going to maximize the dollars coming from the federal government. And that's going to fill the shortfalls, and it's going to create the opportunity for all these things. But then I thought to myself, well, those ARPA dollars aren't free. Anybody who does a 1040, when you do your income taxes in April, and then sends that check to the federal government knows. Federal money is not free money. Good citizens, not just here in Colorado, but all across this nation and the territories, and those living overseas as U.S. citizens are paying. Now, I gave the speech about we're in an inflationary period. We have inflation at 40-year highs in the state and the nation. We're going to see record prices in fuel and food that we have never seen in our lives. A lot of this is not just coincidental. It's decisions that are made right in this building, and it's decisions that are made in Washington, D.C. It just doesn't make sense to this country boy. Because after inflation follows recession, and there will be a day of reckoning. And that day of reckoning is going to be painful if we continue on this trajectory. It doesn't make sense to me, and it doesn't make sense to my constituents in House District 64. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I cannot be a yes.
Thank you, Representative Holtorf. Representative Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I hear the conversation a lot about growth and the size of our government and how big things have gotten. I want to remind you of July 20th, 2012 at 12:38 a.m. when those kids in that movie theater were reaching out and calling. If there had been one fewer 911 operator to answer their phone calls, more people would have died that day. If they had dispatched just one fewer EMT or police car or fire truck over to that theater that day, more people would have died. If when they went to the hospital and nurses and attendants and doctors came out to pull those kids out of the cars, out of the police cars, out of personal cars, if they had one fewer of them come out, more people would have died. Later on, when we were trying to work our way through everything that had just happened to us that day, and we were calling the city government, we were calling the state government to try to get us assistance to get through the day, if there had been one fewer person answering those phone calls that we were making, more people would have died. And that's just a fact. Over the years after that, I was attending a lot of events and ceremonies, and there was the head of our victim advocacy group. Her name was Carol O'Shea. She was the first woman I saw when I went in to Gateway High School. And Carol was there as a member of the government through this entire process. And I would see her all the time. And at the very end, when we were going through the trial, they got all of the families together. It was probably one of the first times that all of the families had been together in a room again. And it had been over 3 years. And I came into the room and I came around the corner, and there was Carol standing there. And she said, "Tom, you must think that I'm stalking you, that I'm always, here." I told her, I said, "You know what, Carol?" I said, "When I come into these difficult places and I don't know what I'm going to expect, I look for you. Because once I see you, I know that things are going to be okay." And I think that that's what people outside of this building are looking for. I think they're looking to us to tell us when times are tough, when we're having difficult times, when we're looking for some help, that there's somebody there that we can count on. And I think that's what government does for us. I think that is who those people are. And I am a yes on this bill.
Minority Leader McKean.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Sullivan, I agree with a lot of what you said. Had there been one less dispatcher, had there been one less police officer, had there been one less ambulance, had the roads between the movie theater and the hospital not been maintained well, I agree with you on all those things. Those are the role of government that I think there's no question about. Whether or not there are people in the places when we agree on the big picture of things is something that I think that we all look at and we all think is worth and worthy to the discussion that we have here. Where I depart, and where I think we must be incredibly focused, is when we depart from what we all agree about. And in fact, if we were to have a feeling that we just need more people to be there for the various things in our lives, painful, yes. Some issues not so painful. Do we then grow government to simply be there at every moment in our lives? A lot of us here would say no. In fact, a lot of us here would say absolutely no.
You have 1 minute remaining.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And to be honest, I won't need the minute. I'll just say I agree with a lot of where you come from and where you take us in that discussion. And then I depart, because in the end I say, okay, there is a lot that is absolutely the job of government. And again, I think we all agree on it. And then we get to where, as I said, I want to look at what that 1,010.1% increase in a department is. And then I want to have a discussion whether or not we agree with that being the role of government. And it's that oversight and it's that questioning That, in large part, is why people sent me here, because I was always willing to ask those questions, and I think we always should be.
Madam Speaker Pro Tem Benavides.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this bill is about the budget, and I agree with all of my colleagues that there is an increase in the budget. But we have also had an increase in the population. We have a lot of this budget are federal dollars, which, we're not. There are a couple of states that don't take those federal dollars, and that's fine. That's their choice. But we did, and we do, and we should. And so that explains part of the growth. And when I was listening, I was thinking, because it's continuing to grow, we have to be prepared for what comes up next, because we all know it's a cycle. We're having increases, and then we're going to have decreases. I worked for Department of DPA, Department of Public Administration, from 2007 to 2011. And we were in one of those down cycles. And we had to cut. Every department had to cut. And that's what happens. This budget may be higher now, but when we get into that cycle, there will be cuts. In 2020, we cut many departments because we didn't have the funds. We do that. That's part of budgeting. And I am so proud of the members of the JBC for the work they've done this year, because they have made very prudent decisions that are planning ahead. 15% of the budget into reserves is remarkable. This is on top of 10% last year. These are thinking ahead, saying we need to be prepared for that downturn. They put significant millions of dollars, I don't know the exact amount, into controlled maintenance. And those of you know that controlled maintenance is always at the bottom of the list. We never have enough. But by doing those things we maybe should have done last year or the year before, we're doing them now when we have those extra monies. That is so important. So the decisions made in this budget are prudent fiscal decisions that are looking at those ups and downs. That's why we have those quarterly revenue forecasts. And the dollars, because we have those extra dollars, there's things we need. I remember when I brought the first bill I brought on environment 4 years ago, I was shocked. That was the year that one industry leader had a discharge from their facility, and it caused ash to go all over my district. They had to do a stay in place in the schools because they didn't know what that was from. When we asked the department, we need somebody to look at that, they said, we only have one toxicologist in the entire state that works for us. We don't have people that can go out there and monitor those things. So putting those dollars in place are absolutely needed. We know that we have had, for years, one of the highest suicide rates in the country. The dollars we're spending for mental health are needed. If we have to cut back in 2 or 3 years when we have one of those downturns, let's do that. But we have some money now, let's spend it. Let's get people as healthy as they can to continue in their lives. We know we have a housing crisis in this state. We know in every community, people can't afford to pay rent. They can't afford to buy a home. The monies that we're going to put into that are important. The monies we spend on transportation are so important because even though we're trying to do everything we can for people to cut down on their use of cars, we're building better cars for the environment. We're spending money on electrification of vehicles that we need to do. We don't want to be behind in that. Those are all important. So I think the decisions made in this budget are smart decisions. They're fiscally sound, and they're the decisions we need to make. And if we have to, make tougher decisions down the road, we can do that. We showed we can do that 2 years ago. So I'm a solid, enthusiastic yes on this bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker Pro Tem. Representative Harrod.
I'm going to talk about you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And thank you, Representative Benavidez, for your points as well, Representative Sullivan. I'm proud to be a member of the Joint Budget Committee and to present this budget to you this year. I do have to continue to give thanks to our Joint Budget Committee Chair, Representative McCluskey, for all that she has done to really step in a time where we had quite complicated budget pressures this year. There was a time when we were cutting budgets, when we were cutting to the bone, when we told Coloradans that we actually didn't have the funding to stand up for them and the things that they needed to continue their communities moving forward. We didn't have to do that this year. But we had another complication, and that was the additional revenue coming in from the coronavirus pandemic, from the feds, and from our community saying they needed more support. So this budget does move Colorado forward. With pandemic-induced inflationary increased costs, we put aside money for families. We put aside money for businesses. We're making record investments in K-12 and public schools. And in fact, the budget stabilization factor is the smallest we've seen since it's been created. This funding will go directly into classrooms to prepare Colorado students for success and support the teachers and other educational professionals that are within those school communities. We are increasing per pupil funding, increasing the ability to pay our teachers through our districts. This is a responsible and balanced budget for Colorado. I see a little one up there in the gallery today. I can't mention her father, but I can mention you. Hello. Hi. I believe that this budget invests in your future. It invests in the future of Coloradans. It invests in our young people. With putting more money in K-12 education, especially in schools that serve underrepresented young people, that serve our students with disabilities, that serve our rural communities. In fact, changing the way that we look at risk students once and for all and providing funding for more of our youth. Ensuring that if that young person up there chooses to go into higher education, that they have funding to support that education. And that our institutions are able to succeed. We have capped tuition increases at 2% this year, despite the fact that we know there's declining enrollment, because we are doing everything possible to get our young people and our adults back into the education and also back into workforce. We are supporting Colorado's small businesses by reducing fees on these businesses, by providing direct support to them to, again, ensure that they can thrive. The investments that we've made in our infrastructure across Colorado is something that we can also not turn a blind eye to. The Joint Budget Committee has made substantial investments there as well. We have looked at everywhere from rural Colorado to our urban core to the suburbs. We have heard from people across the state, both departments and citizens, and built a budget that reflects their needs. We also know that the inflationary pressures that we are seeing today have a real impact on our budget. But they will have a real impact on Colorado's budget moving forward for years to come. That is why we have invested in those prepays. That is why we have invested in our rainy day funds. We have a stronger reserve now in Colorado than most states ever have. We have a balanced budget that we debate every year that most states don't do and aren't required to do. And we have moved forward a bipartisan budget that I believe we all should be proud of and that Coloradans can stand behind. It has truly, truly been my honor to serve as a member of the Joint Budget Committee. Our staff is impeccable. I can't imagine the late nights that they have stayed as we send them questions. But they will continue to do that work as we move forward with bills that will take away from the set aside that we have created to support Coloradans in housing, in wealth building, in investing in our businesses, investing in our air quality and our environment, investing in rural Colorado and our urban cores, investing in mental health, because our communities are suffering. That is what we have represented in this budget. And I am so proud to vote yes on this budget, and I hope you will join me in doing the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Harrod. Representative McCluskey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a good day. It is a good day to be here, to be talking about the state's budget. I want to start with some thank yous, some very important thank yous. First of all, to those of you who participated in our conversations this year, whether it was through briefings, hearings, the SMART Act hearings, or on the floor yesterday as part of the debate. Your voice matters. It influences the budget. It helps us do a better job. I am grateful to all of you for those moments and that dedication of your time, your talent, and your expertise. I am very grateful to the 5 members of the Joint Budget Committee who joined me in the journey this year. I want to lift up Senator Moreno, Hansen, Zenzinger, and my buddy on the Western Slope, Senator Rankin, for their thoughtful input and consideration of the work that was before us. I definitely want to thank Representative Harrod, a companion, a buddy, a thought partner at times when the decisions were tough. Thank you for your good work. And I want to lift up Representative Ransom. This is her final budget as a member of the Joint Budget Committee. And for your service, your dedication to reading every single page of every single briefing is unmatched. Thank you, Representative Ransom. We appreciate your service. Well deserved. And I certainly want to give my thanks to an amazing team of staff members led by Director Carolyn Campman, analysts who have been partners to us in helping us develop the budget before you today. And I want to talk now about our one very clear responsibility to this state, and that is we have a duty to bring forward a balanced budget. And when we talk about balanced, I think we all think about revenues and expenditures. We think about spending and saving. We think about the numbers. But now I want to get away from the math of the thing and talk about the heart of the thing, what it means to be balanced in our perspectives, in our consideration of the choices we make through the budget. It is easy to talk about the growth of government, but folks, the referendum C cap contains that growth. Most of our dollars are going to our public schools and health care, services that Coloradans count on. When we talk about the heart of this budget, let's focus on some of the quieter, less celebrated investments that we are making as a body. This year, we restored more than $8 million to our early intervention programs, making sure that those youngest of children with developmental delays can receive intensive support and services to help get them on track to be school ready and successful in life. We put money this year into helping those students in higher education who are first in their family to pursue a college degree. We put more money to support their success, to support students pursuing a post-secondary credential who come from poverty, from lower economic backgrounds. This year we expanded our services to women who serve in military service, to our women veterans who have dealt with unspeakable challenges. We invested in providing liaisons to our Native American tribes through our public schools. Through the Department of Natural Resources, we've now assigned a liaison to better engage with our tribes here in Colorado. There are so many moments in this budget for us to be proud, for us to carry, to celebrate, to share back in our districts as significant accomplishments. I heard from both sides of the aisle the importance of investing in our public schools, making sure that educators are well paid, that they continue in their service of teaching and helping students learn. We can be so proud that we are making an investment that buys down the budget stabilization factor to its lowest point since it was originally created during the recession of 2008. That is significant. That is something to celebrate. It is so hard for me to know that some of you will vote against this budget because it is not everything that you wanted. But that's what balance is. Balance means a consideration of all perspectives, trying to reach the best solution when priorities compete, demands are great. We have a moment to come together and say, we have done this in a balanced and thoughtful way. I urge all of you to recognize the celebrations in this budget, the heart that is in this budget, what these dollars will do for people in this state, people we care about, people we serve. Thank you for your consideration, your input, your participation in the process. I am so proud of the balanced budget before you today. Please vote yes.
Thank you, Representative McCluskey. Representative Wu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I hear some comments out there. People don't want to hear me right now, but I keep hearing about investment in Colorado, and it is just a huge struggle to me to hear about investing in Colorado when the cost of living here is through the roof, and I know my constituents, and I think many others, are struggling right now. So when I keep hearing investment, the government needs to invest, I think what we need to invest in are Coloradans with more money in their pocket to make the choices they need to make. We need to invest in them because they know what to do with their money. It's not government that's going to fix this. And I don't believe this legislation, House Bill 1329, is a good investment for Coloradans to decrease our cost of living and allow people to thrive. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1329? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1329. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Williams votes no. Representative Soper, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Soper votes no. Representative Hanks, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Hanks votes no. Representative Hooten, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Hooten votes yes. Representative Caraveo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Michaelson Janae, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Michaelson Janae votes yes. Representative Basenecker, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Basenecker votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. I haven't closed the machine quite yet. Well, there's the glitch. Please close the machine. With 41 aye votes, 24 no votes, and 0 excused, House Bill 1329 is adopted. Co-sponsors. We usually don't clap on third reading. Representative Moxon, Janae, Hooten, Caraveo, Basenecker, Judah, co-sponsor. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to House Bill 1333.
House Bill 1333 by Representatives Herod, McCluskey, also Senators Zenzinger and Rankin, concerning an increase in the minimum wage for nursing facility employees and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1333 on third reading, final passage.
The question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1333 on third reading and final passage. See no further discussion. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Williams votes no. Representative Soper, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Soper votes yes. Representative Hanks, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Hanks votes no. Representative Hooten, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Hooten votes yes. Representative Caraveo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Michelson Janae, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Michelson Janae votes yes. Representative Basenecker, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Basenecker votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 49 yes votes, 16 no votes, and 0 excused, House Bill 1333 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Representative Michelson Janae, Representative Hooten, co-sponsor. Representative Caraveo, co-sponsor. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to House Bill 1340.
House Bill 1340 by Representatives Herod and McCluskey, also Senators Hansen and Zenzinger, concerning capital-related transfers of money.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1340 on third reading, final passage.
Question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1340 on third reading and final passage. See no further discussion. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Williams votes no. Representative Soper, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Soper votes no. Representative Hanks, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Hanks votes no. Representative Hooten, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Hooten votes yes. Representative Caraveo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Michelson Janae, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Michelson Janae votes yes. Representative Basenecker, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Basenecker votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 43 aye votes, 22 no votes, and 0 excused, House Bill 1340 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to House Bill 1336.
House Bill 1336 by Representatives McCluskey and Ransom, also Senators Hansen and Zenzinger, concerning the streamlining of the processing of certain money collected by the Judicial Department.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1336 on third reading, final passage.
The question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1336 on third reading and final passage. See no further discussion. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Williams votes yes. Representative Soper, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Soper votes yes. Representative Hanks, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Hanks votes yes. Representative Hooten, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Hooten votes yes. Representative Caraveo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Michelson Janae, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Michelson Janae votes yes. Representative Basenecker, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Basenecker votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 65 aye votes, 0 no votes, and 0 excuse, House Bill 1336 is adopted and is further evidence that we need a consent calendar. Co-sponsors.
Well, let's do it the last month.
Just for future legislatures, you know? Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title of House Bill 1337.
House Bill 1337 by Representatives Sheridan Ransom, also Senators Hansen and Rankin, concerning a requirement that the State Personnel Director quadrennially produce a report on compensation and in connection therewith, modifying requirements for the compensation report, including reporting deadlines and making an appropriation.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1337 on third reading, final passage.
Question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1337 on third reading and final passage. See no further discussion. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Williams votes yes. Representative Soper, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Soper votes yes. Representative Hanks, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Hanks votes yes. Representative Hooten, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Hooten votes yes. Representative Caraveo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Michelson Janae, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Michelson Janae votes yes. Representative Basenecker, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Basenecker votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 65 aye votes, 0 no votes, and 0 excuse, House Bill 1337 passes. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title of House Bill 1338.
House Bill 1338 by Representative Harrod, also Senator Hansen, concerning modifications of the manner in which specified motor vehicle-related functions of the Department of Revenue are funded and in connection therewith making and reducing appropriations.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1338 on third reading, final passage.
Question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1338 on third reading and final passage. See no further discussion. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Williams votes no. Representative Soper, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Soper votes no. Representative Hanks, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Hanks votes no. Representative Hooten, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Hooten votes yes. Representative Caraveo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Michelson Janae, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Michelson Janae votes yes. Representative Basenecker, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Basenecker votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 39 aye votes, 26 no votes, and 0 excuse, House Bill 1338 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title of House Bill 1339.
House Bill 1339 by Representative Sarah McCluskey, also Senators Zenzinger and Rankin, concerning the Colorado Drives Vehicle Services account of the Highway Users Tax Fund and in connection therewith with merging the licensing service cash fund into the account and requiring the account investment earnings be credited to the account.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1339 on third reading, final passage.
Question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1339 on third reading and final passage. See no further discussion. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Williams votes no. Representative Soper, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Soper votes no. Representative Hanks, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Hanks votes no.
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Michelson Janae, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Michelson Janae votes yes. Representative Basenecker, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Basenecker votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 50 aye votes, 15 no votes, and 0 excuse, House Bill 1339 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to proceed out of order for consideration of Senate amendments to House bills.
What if I objected? Just joking. Seeing no objection, we'll proceed out of order for consideration of Senate amendments to House bills. Mr. Shebel, please read the title of the House Bill 1092.
House Bill 1092 by Representatives Soper and Roberts, also Senators Bridges and Quorum, concerning the issuance of loans by irrigation districts to landowners for certain purposes.
Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that we concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1092.
That is a proper motion. Would you like to explain?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the Senate, they decided to give this opportunity that this bill will create to more irrigation districts across the state. So it's, again, a completely voluntary program, but they expanded it to allow more people in the state, more irrigation districts in the state to participate if they want to. Good bill, or good amendment, vote yes.
Representative Soper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That's exactly as Representative Roberts just said. It expands it to be all the irrigation districts, not just those formed under the 1921 Act.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1092. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Williams votes no. Representative Soper, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Soper votes yes. Representative Hanks, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Hanks votes yes. Representative Putin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Putin votes yes. Representative Caraveo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Michelson Janae, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Michelson Janae votes yes. Representative Basenecker, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Basenecker votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 59 aye votes, 6 no votes, and 0 excused, the motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1092 is adopted. Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1092 on. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1092 as amended.
Question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1092 as amended. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Shebel, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Williams votes no. Representative Soper, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Soper votes yes. Representative Hanks, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Hanks votes yes. Representative Putin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Putin votes yes. Representative Caraveo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Michelson Janae, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Michelson Janae votes yes. Representative Basenecker, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Basenecker votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 58 aye votes, 7 no votes, and 0 excused, House Bill 1092 is repassed as amended. Mr. Shebel, please read the title of the House Bill 1049. Oh, you're right. Co-sponsors. Sorry. Anyone who wants to co-sponsor the second time around House Bill 1092. There you go. Yep. It's kind of insulting that we would co-sponsor amendments that the Senate made, you know? All right. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title of the House Bill 1049.
House Bill 1049 by Representatives Bacon and Ricks, also Senators Pedersen and Bridges, concerning prohibiting a post-secondary institution from making payment of an outstanding balance on a student's account a condition of issuing the student's documents.
Representative Bacon.
Thank you. We move to concur with the Senate amendment to House Bill 1049.
That is a proper motion. Would you like to explain?
Yes.
Representative Ricks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So we are moving to concur because this amendment is going to fix an error in the current language to make it clear that institutions can withhold transcripts for foreign students. In Section 2, the bill is going to ensure that there is no transcript withholding for fines and fees, which is the original intent of the bill. It also adds back language from the original bill to ensure that the student loan ombudsperson, which is an existing position within the AG's office, can receive complaints and work smoothly with the AG's office via the Uniform Consumer Credit Code Administration. So we move to concur. It's a great amendment.
Thank you, Representative Ricks. Seeing no further discussion, the motion before us is to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1049. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote? No. Representative Williams votes no. Representative Soper, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Soper votes no. Representative Hanks, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Hanks votes no. Representative Hooten, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Hooten votes yes. Representative Caraveo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Michelson Janae, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Michelson Janae votes yes. Representative Basenecker, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Basenecker votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 41 aye votes, 24 no votes, and 0 excused, the motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1049 is adopted. Majority Leader Eskar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1049 as amended.
Question before us is the repassage of House Bill 1049 as amended. See no further discussion. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Williams votes no. Representative Soper, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Soper votes no. Representative Hanks, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Hanks votes no. Representative Hooten, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Hooten votes yes. Representative Caraveo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Michelson Janae, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Michelson Janae votes yes. Representative Basenecker, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Basenecker votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 39 aye votes, 26 no votes, and 0 excused, House Bill 1049 is repassed as amended. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title of House Bill 1168.
House Bill 1168 by Representatives McKean and Mullica, also Senators Woodward and Janal, concerning permitting public schools to provide a hunter education course to 7th grade students.
You don't have to raise your hand. You don't have to make a motion. We can just move on. But it's like a standoff. Does anyone want to be recognized?
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
You go ahead.
I don't want,
Please.
I'll choose. Oh, there we go. Minority Leader McKean.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Mullica has something to say.
Representative Mullica has checked.
Thank you,
me.
Mr. Speaker. We move to
Checkmate.
concur with the Senate amendments to House Bill 1168.
Is that proper motion? Would you like to explain, Minority Leader McKean?
Nope. I don't want to explain this at all. Senate did some stuff.
They did.
Yeah, they did. So they put an amendment on our bill, and they just sort of said what everybody does anyway. Then they put it into words. And we weren't really for it, but we weren't really against it. Is that right?
There's other motions. I mean, you don't have to concur, but Representative Mullica.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. No, members, they worked with the DOW to make sure that they were in compliance with how the DOW does their classes, and DOW was all right with it, and so we are all right with it.
Minority Leader McKean.
It pains me, but I would ask for an aye vote. They just codified what they were already doing, put it in the bill. Then we got it back, and we had to do something with it, so that's what we're doing.
That's great. I don't know how many times you're allowed to be recognized, but we're just moving forward. And don't forget, there's a chance to co-sponsor after all this, maybe. The motion before us is to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1168. See no further discussion. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Williams votes no. Representative Soper, how do you vote?
Maybe. Yes.
Representative Soper. What color is that button? Representative Soper votes yes. Representative Hanks, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Hanks votes no. Representative Hooten, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Hooten votes yes. Representative Caraveo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Michelson Janae, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Michelson Janae votes yes. Representative Basenecker, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Basenecker votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Woodrow, how do you vote? Please, Representative Beasley, how do you vote? Please close the machine. With 47 aye votes, 18 no votes, and 0 excused, the motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1168 is adopted. Majority Leader Eskar.
Mr. Speaker, it wasn't really clear to me what the amendment was, so I'm not sure I really want to make this motion, but to save time, I move for the repassage of House Bill 1168 as amended.
Motion before us is the repassage of House Bill 1168 as amended. See no further discussion. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Williams votes yes. Representative Soper, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Soper votes yes. Representative Hanks, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Hanks votes yes. Representative Putin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Putin votes yes. Representative Caraveo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Michelson Janae, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Michelson Janae votes yes. Representative Basenecker, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Basenecker votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 59 aye votes, 6 no votes, and 0 excused, House Bill 1168 is repassed as amended. Co-sponsors.
Do you want to
Oh, look at that. It worked. Whoa. Please close the machine.
Okay.
Oh, and Soper. And Soper. Whoa. This is, I see now. I see why we do it. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to House Bill 1209.
House Bill 1209 by Representatives Bradfield and Young, also Senator Woodward, concerning the continuation of the Strategic Action Planning Group on Aging and in connection therewith, implementing the recommendation contained in the 2021 Sunset Report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies to sunset the Strategic Action Planning Group on Aging.
Representative Young.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Regretfully, I move that the House concur in Senate amendments to House Bill 1209.
That is a proper motion. It's not the only motion, but it is a proper motion. Representative Young.
I will explain the amendments. First of all, what these amendments do, this amendment does is it transfers funds from the Strategic Action Planning Aging Group on Aging Cash Fund and any unexpended funds in that cash fund to the Older Coloradans Cash Fund. It also has some conforming amendments because this sunset followed House Bill 1035, the Modernization of Older Coloradans Act, and there's some technical difficulties between those two bills, and it provides conforming amendments.
We urge an aye vote on this amendment to House Bill 1209.
Okay. Question before us is the adoption of Senate amendments to House Bill 1209. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Shebel, please open the machine. Members, please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Williams votes no. Representative Soper, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Soper votes no. Representative Hanks, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Hanks votes no. Representative Putin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Putin votes yes. Representative Caraveo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Michelson Janae, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Michelson Janae votes yes. Representative Basenecker, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Basenecker votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 56 aye votes, 9 no votes, 0 excused, the motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1209 is adopted. Majority Leader Eskar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1209 as amended.
The question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1209 as amended. See no further discussion. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Williams votes yes. Representative Soper, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Soper votes no. Representative Hanks, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Hanks votes no. Representative Putin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Putin votes yes. Representative Caraveo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Michelson Janae, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Michelson Janae votes yes. Representative Basenecker, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Basenecker votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Majority Leader. Okay. 61 aye votes, 4 no votes, and 0 excused. House Bill 1209 is repassed as amended. Co-sponsors. Whoa, there's one. Whoa. Wow. I was wrong. Wow, some spectacular. Oh my gosh, Representative Judah, co-sponsor. This is just blowing my mind. This is amazing. All right, please close the machine. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title of House Bill 1252.
House Bill 1252 by Representative Burnett, also Senators Kirkmeyer and Hawkes Lewis, concerning provisions of public school contracts and in connection therewith specifying requirements and limitations for such provisions.
Representative Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Regretfully, I move that the House concur with the Senate amendment.
Gobble, 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 gobble.
That is a proper motion. Not the only motion, but a proper one. Representative Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This clarifies the contract conditions for the design and construction of public work projects as it relates to public schools. I ask for an aye vote on this amendment to House Bill 1252.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1252. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Williams votes no. Representative Soper, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Soper votes no. Representative Hanks, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Hanks votes no. Representative Hooten, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Hooten votes yes. Representative Caraveo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Michelson Janae, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Michelson Janae votes yes. Representative Basenecker, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Basenecker votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Concur.
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 48 aye votes, 17 no votes, and 0 excused, the motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1252 is adopted. Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1252 as amended.
Motion before us is the repassage of House Bill 1252 as amended. See no further discussion. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Williams votes no. Representative Soper, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Soper votes no. Representative Hanks, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Hanks votes no. Representative Hooten, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Hooten votes yes. Representative Caraveo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Michelson Janae, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Michelson Janae votes yes. Representative Basenecker, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Basenecker votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Snyder, how do you vote? Please close the machine. With 51 aye votes, 14 no votes, and 0 excused, the motion to repass House Bill 1252 as amended is adopted. That's exactly right. Co-sponsors. That's what I thought. Please close the machine. Oh, wait. Representative Judah. Wrong again. All right. Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the following bills be made special orders today, March 31st at 10:52. House Bill 1297, Senate Bill 152, House Bill 1307, Senate Bill 143.
Seeing no objection, the bills listed by the Majority Leader will be made special orders today, March 31st at 10:52 a.m. Representative Tatone. Members, you have heard the motion. Seeing no objection, Representative Tatone will take the chair.
She worked it. She was
All right.
convincing.
The committee will come to order. With your unanimous consent, the bills will be read by title unless there is a request for a reading of bill at length. Committee reports are printed in your bill folders. Floor amendments will be shown on your screen and on your iPads. Bills will be laid over upon the request of the majority leader, and the coat rule is relaxed. Mr. Shebel, please read the title of House Bill 1297.
House Bill 1297 by Representatives Kipp and Neville, also Senators Bridges and Scott, concerning the designation of daylight saving time as the standard year-round time within the state when allowed by federal law.
Representative.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 1297 and the State Affairs Committee report.
Okay, to the committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members in the committee, what we did is we actually adopted an amendment. So I know there was a sheet actually passed out on my side of the aisle that said lots of people came and testified against the bill. That was actually factually inaccurate. They testified in favor of amending the bill, and that's exactly what we did. We amended it and gave them their amendment. So we basically got rid of all the opposition, and what the amendment does is says that there's 4 other states plus Colorado have to do this before we actually move to not locking the clock and moving to summertime.
All right. Is any further discussion on the committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the State Civic, Military, and Veterans Affairs Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, no. All right. The ayes have it. The committee report is adopted. To the bill, Representative Kipp.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, daylight, everybody, it's finally here. So this is our bill, which would make daylight saving time permanent in Colorado. I think you probably heard about this bill once or twice, especially since we just, moved to daylight saving time about, 2-3 weeks ago now. I hope you've all recovered from the time change, but we all know because of science that there are actually, because we do change the clocks twice a year, especially around the time of the springtime change where people lose an hour, there's actually an actual public health issue. We're talking there's more traffic accidents, more mental health issues, more heart attacks, more strokes. There are actually physical effects that affect people from doing this. Most people are tired of changing their clocks twice a year, although some people are really, some people are more bought into being permanently in standard time. Others are more into permanently being daylight time. But we believe more people want to be permanently in daylight time because they have more hours in the evening to exercise, to shop. It actually improves commerce. So there's a lot of benefits to going permanently to daylight time. One other thing I'd like to point out is that about 18 states have already gone before us and said, if the federal government approves this, we would also like to go to permanent daylight time. And that we're going to be just another state that's getting added to that list of wanting to go to permanent daylight time. But it's really important to weigh in on this, especially as federal legislation on this is currently pending. And I also want to thank my co-prime for joining me on this bill.
Representative Neville.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I want to thank my co-prime as well because she really did all the work on this, and I just kind of tagged along at the end. But members, what this essentially does is says that there's already 3 other states that have done this. We would be the 4th. So if one other state does this and then the federal government allows us, we will lock our clocks.
Representative Sandridge.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. Some good points were brought up, especially with the mental health part. A lot of people do suffer from climatological depression. And even if you look at Mountain Shadows, which is out in Colorado Springs, when the sun goes down, it goes down a little earlier for them because they have a shadow of the mountain. There's been a higher depression rate and suicide rate in that area, if you can believe that. So there's some research that every minute counts. Every minute counts. And I'm sure we've heard of people who get these certain lights from their psychiatrist that helps them with their depression. So there is research on this. It will save lives. I asked for an aye vote. Thank you.
Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Couple comments. First, I want to thank the bill sponsors for working with the ski industry on the amendment that you put on in committee. I know that was important to them, and it therefore important to me as somebody who represents a lot of ski areas and the tourism industry more broadly. The concerns that they had about changing the hours both in the winter and the summer were pertinent to me, and I'm thankful that you worked with them to address some of that. I do have some questions and I have some concerns, and personally I'm conflicted on this. I know this is one step in the process of getting federal approval, but I didn't hear a few things in your presentation just now that I have questions about. One, we did this as a nation in the 70s, and it didn't last very long because the public in general was pretty upset and with the way that it went. So I'm wondering if you could address why, if we tried this in the 70s, it was immediately overturned pretty quickly. Why should we go down that path again? Two, I not only represent the tourism parts of our state, I represent a lot of farmers and ranchers, and I didn't hear any comments in your presentation about the impacts of less sunlight in the morning on our agricultural industry. So I'm curious about that.
Representative Kipp.
Unless you have more questions, we can answer them all at once. Okay.
I'm going to talk about farmers and ranchers.
Representative Kipp.
Okay, I'll just answer the questions then. So in the 1970s, when this was done, it was basically done with no notice, and it was done in January, which meant that it was a really bad time to just all of a sudden plunge everybody in the morning into darkness with no preparation. So that was why it was received badly, because it just happened all of a sudden at the very darkest time of the year. A lot of states have, as I said, gone before and decided to do this again. In the 1970s also, there were anecdotal reports of more pedestrians getting hit by cars, but that was actually one of those things where they went back and looked at it and showed that statistically there was actually no difference in kids getting hit in the morning. And actually what they've shown, they did a study in Washington because they were concerned about it up there, is they did a study that showed there's actually more pedestrians get hit in the evening when they're out because of the darker time, and there's more pedestrians out and about then. So people actually feel like it's safer. I believe Representative Holtorf wishes to speak about farmers, but I will mention that former Senator Brophy was there in committee, who represents the Northwest region and has been a big advocate. I know, farmers and ranchers, I believe, and they can speak to this better than I can, that they work when the sun is up, and that's sort of what matters to them, regardless of what time it actually is.
Representative Holt, Representative Neville.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I will just add, too, the one thing that I think was mentioned was about tourism, but I know that the Colorado Competitive Council was there and was originally in position of amending the bill, but with the amendment, their concerns are resolved, and same with Colorado Ski Country. They believe if another state does this, probably New Mexico is the most likely to do it, then we'll be at basically the same time zone as all the surrounding states, and no one will be at a competitive disadvantage.
Representative Holtorf.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to talk about the ag component. Probably not a surprise to all of you. Representing eastern Colorado and southeastern Colorado. Farmers and ranchers like to get up at the crack of dawn and get going. A lot of things have to happen when you've got livestock to feed. In the wintertime, you've got ice to break. You've got livestock to check, equipment to get started, just a lot of moving pieces. One of the things about daylight savings time is in the wintertime we can get an earlier start because we have that daylight, particularly when you have livestock that are calving. I wish we didn't have where you had to switch. I understand the disturbance of time changes and the inconvenience. I also listen to the mental health side of things. But for agriculture, I don't know what the right answer is. I just know that this will have an impact with respect to time on how much daylight we have to get going in the mornings. And the sooner the better for agriculture. The sooner we can get started, the better. Thank you.
All right, members, it's getting a little loud in here. Please keep your conversations off to the side. Thank you. Representative A. Valdez.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. So I was looking into this issue. It's very interesting stuff because I don't know about you, but I have this job where I have to get up early and I go outside and it's dark. It's not fun. I found out that daylight savings time was introduced in 1966 to save energy. That was the reasoning for it, and it doesn't work. So I support this bill because I could leave work when the sun is still up every once in a while during the winter. I would enjoy that. So I would urge a yes vote on the bill.
Representative Sandridge.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I always wonder about the farmers. Why don't they just sleep in another hour? I mean, will it really hurt for the livestock to have breakfast an hour early? I think is it really that big of a deal? It's time for, they work too hard. They need to sleep in every once in a while. And, we should change the name to farmers sleeping in an extra hour bill. So I'm in favor. Thank you.
All right, any further discussion on House Bill 1297? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1297. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? No. No. All right, the ayes have it. House Bill 1297 is adopted. Minister Schiebel, please read the title of Senate Bill 152.
Senate Bill 152 by Senators Fenberg and Hawkes Lewis, also Representatives Gray and Burnett, concerning authorization for a person whose residence is destroyed or becomes uninhabitable to continue to use the address of the residence as the person's residence for purposes of voting if the person intends to return to the residence once it is replaced or becomes habitable.
Representative Gray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 152.
All right, to the bill. Representative Burnett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Colorado has and will continue to experience natural disasters, many spurred by the climate crisis. Wildfires and floods have been particularly destructive. And Representative Gray's and my districts experienced the frightening Marshall Fire, the most destructive fire in Colorado's history, where over 1,100 homes were destroyed in a matter of hours. It's going to take time to recover, but many residents, like residents of other communities ravaged by natural disasters, have a deep sense of belonging to their communities, their families, their friends, their neighbors, their place of work, their schools, their place of worship, and they want to rebuild in those communities. Part of that sense of belonging is the ability to continue to have a voice in the affairs of that community. One important part of that voice is the ability to elect representatives of your community. And currently, the Secretary of State requires a voter to register to vote and to vote in the precinct where they reside. But if this means that if one's home is destroyed, they must register in the precinct where they're temporarily residing. And if that temporary place is outside of their precinct or district, they may no longer have a voice in that community. In past disasters, the Secretary of State has allowed voters to register in the precinct associated with a destroyed home. This bill simply clarifies that even if the destroyed property is now simply a vacant lot, those residents can continue to register to vote in the precinct now associated with their now vacant lot. This simply allows that if a resident's home is destroyed due to natural or other disaster, and that resident intends to return to the resident once it again is habitable or newly constructed, that resident may continue to use the address of the destroyed residence for purposes of registering to vote. So, I urge a yes vote on SB 152.
Representative Gray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this is a really serious issue that goes pretty deep in our communities right now, but could affect any community in this state, which is when you have a wildfire or other natural disaster, folks can lose their homes, and in our communities, many people have lost their homes to the ground. Like some left with a suitcase, some left with nothing, and they lost everything. And when you do the job that Representative, can you get him to quiet down a little?
Yeah. Hey, members, can you please take your conversations off to the side? It's a little hard to hear down in the well.
You don't even have to listen. It's just, I'm going to tell a story about the people in my community for a second, and it's serious. I'm sorry. I'm as big a talker as anyone. For folks who lost their homes in the Marshall Fire, trying to figure out their place of community is very hard right now. They want to keep their kids in the same schools. They want to get back as soon as possible. it's a very hard time to find the ability to get a home reconstructed or have it changed or figure out what their city or town is gonna do with it. And so, guys, I'm seriously talking about victims of the Marshall Fire for a second, and it bothers me a little bit. Anyway, there are a bunch of families right now.
Members, can you please pay attention
Sorry,
to the well?
I
This is
apologize.
about the victims of the Marshall Fire and what they've gone through, and
I know,
appreciate your attention.
You don't have to listen to me, but I'm talking about families that I talk to every day who are trying to figure out whether they're going to be able to get back to their homes. And one of the most acute conditions, and the school districts have done very well on, is making sure kids can stay in the schools with their friends, because they already lost their homes. They already lost all their stuff, but they can stay in there. But what this does is help as the decisions are made about how we rebuild from the Marshall Fire, that the folks who have been displaced by the Marshall Fire get to help have a voice in how that rebuilding happens. So the folks in Louisville and the folks in Superior get to have a voice in choosing their leaders and any referred measures or anything like that about how their community comes back. And being displaced by a natural disaster is really, really hard. And I've had a lot of really, really hard conversations with folks about how they're going to do that. And what this bill does is give them, this is not the silver bullet, this is not the thing that takes care of everything. But what it does is it gives them a voice in saying, as my community rebuilds, I get to have a voice in it. For the folks who say, like, look, my kid goes to school in Superior, my kid goes to school in Louisville, that's where their friends are. I need to be back there. I want to be back there. I want to be back there as soon as possible, that I'm going to have a voice in how that happens. And I understand for almost all families in the state, that's not something they're going through right now. But if you represent people for who it is, it becomes really important really fast. And I don't believe most of them are watching this right now, but I also want them to know that their representatives are here making sure that their interests are that folks are watching the store around here, and we're going to make sure that they keep a voice in their community as their community builds back, because they didn't ask to have their home burned to the ground. It just happened to them, and that this state, not just the two of us, but this state is going to take care of them.
Any further discussion on Representative Bacon?
Thank you. I am in support of this bill, but we had a good conversation in committee about a provision of it that we thought it might be helpful to just come down to the well to be sure we can all provide some clarity. A part of the bill says that one has to show intent to return, and particularly to return to the same address once a home has been either fixed or reconstructed. We brought up the concern that perhaps this may not apply to renters, because renters do not have control over if a property is rebuilt or when. But we got clarity from the Secretary of State's office that this is to include all residents, not just homeowners or landowners, but also renters, as long as they can show that they do have an intent to return to the similar place. That is at the heart of the issue. So we thought it was worth saying down in the well and in conversations about this bill, as we know there are folks who are impacted by the Marshall Fire, but also other natural disasters we've seen in the state, whether it's flood and tornadoes, that may be renters, and we just want them to be assured that this applies to them as well. So I would ask either one of the sponsors or anyone else just to also confirm what we heard from the Secretary of State's office, if either one of the sponsors want to do that. Thank you.
Representative Benavides.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with my colleague's assessment of this, is that we never know where the natural disaster is going to occur. In other parts of the country, or even here, there was a flood that occurred in Boulder a few years back, and it heavily impacted mobile home areas, mobile home parks. And there's been other places where it's been in the inner cities, and it has heavily impacted renters. And renters as well as homeowners. That's an area where they may want to rent. Maybe it's an area close to where they work or their children's schools, and they do have every intent of going back. But we just want to make sure it's clear in the statute that this is not just about homeowners, that it's also about renters, because all of the people that are impacted by these disasters are having to find other places to live. So if they want to vote in their area where they intend to go back to. So I think it's important that we make that clear in this bill.
Any further discussion on Representative Gray?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to confirm the intent, and that, again, Representative Bacon has conferred with the Secretary of State's office. The intent of the sponsors is that this is not limited to owner-occupied housing. And that's not the practice right now of the Secretary of State's office. So the intention of the sponsors is that this would include both rental housing and owner-occupied housing. And if there's ever a problem and we need to clear that up, that's fine. But as a matter of legislative intent, it is the intent that this is not at all limited to owner-occupied housing. This is a bill that's designed for all housing, whether you own or rent your home.
All right. Any further discussion on Senate Bill 152? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 152. All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? No. All right. The aye has it. Senate Bill 152 is adopted. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title of House Bill 1307.
House Bill 1307 by Representatives Valdez, D. and Pico, also Senator Moreno, concerning technical changes to the Practice Acts regulating mental health providers.
Representative Valdez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 1307.
All right, to the bill.
There's no amendments. Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill changes and adds mental health professionals to the list of individuals who won't be kept liable for dispensing the opioid antagonist and replacing psychotherapists with mental health professionals. This bill came out of Statutory Advisory Committee. Just some technical issues, just some surrounding the mental health professionals. This is a good bill, and with my colleague, Representative Pico.
Representative Pico.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Don't have much to add to that. It's a very straightforward bill, and I recommend an aye vote.
All right. Any further discussion on House Bill 1307? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1307. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? No. All right. The ayes have it. House Bill 1307 is adopted. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title of Senate Bill 143.
Senate Bill 143 by Senators Kirkmeyer and Woodward, also Representatives Pico and Lynch, concerning an update to terminology used to refer to the regulatory entity within the Department of Regulatory Agencies that regulates particular healthcare professions.
Representative Pico.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 143.
To the bill. Representative Lynch.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is just a simple statutory review update to Title 12. The bill strikes references in the common health care provisions in Title 12 in revised statute, basically changing the words from applicable licensing board and replaces those references with the term regulator, which is defined for purposes of the regulation of the profession and occupation under Title 12 as the entity with the regulatory authority concerning a particular profession or occupation. This is a good bill. Vote yes.
Assistant Majority Leader Gonzalez Gutierrez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For those of us that were in public health that heard this very important piece of legislation, I just want to point out that I would fully support an amendment to rename the title of this bill.
Okay.
Maybe the Nate Dogg and Warren G. Act. Nobody gets it? Members, no, this is important work, but I'm referring to a song called Regulators, because that's what this bill is doing, is changing, some language and statute to just be regulators, which is a very important 90s song, if you could look it up.
Representative Pico.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, in committee, I was kind of a little lost at words, but doing a quick look, it's a rap song, and I'm not quite sure I'm into that, but this is ready for a rap, and let's go.
All right. Just any further discussion on Senate Bill 143? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 143. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? No. Senate Bill 143 is adopted. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
All right. You've heard the motion. If there's no objection, the committee will rise and report.
House will come back to order. Mr. Shee will please read the report of the Committee of the Whole.
Mr. Speaker, your Committee of the Whole begs leave to report has under consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof and making the following recommendations thereon. House Bill 1297 as amended 1307 passed on second reading and ordered engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 143, 152 passed on second reading and ordered revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Representative Tatone. I don't think that's the right motion. Maybe we could try one more time. That is a proper motion. The motion before us is the adoption of the report of the Committee of the Whole. There are no amendments at the desk. Mr. Shee will please open the machine and members please proceed to vote. This is the best time to issue fines. Let's see who is late to this vote. I think the fine bucket over here is is low for staff. Remember, it's for staff parties. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Williams votes no. Representative Soper, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Soper votes no. Representative Hanks, how do you vote? Uh-oh. Representative Hanks is excused with a $2 fine. Representative Hooten, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Hooten votes yes. Representative Caraveo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Michelson Janae, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Michelson Janae votes yes. Representative Basenecker, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Basenecker votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. And then we were left with one. All right, Representative Luck is excused with a $2 fine. I was expecting more. With 41 aye votes, 22 no votes, and 2 excused, the report of the Committee of the Whole is adopted. I believe that brings us to announcements and introductions. Oh, Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senate Bill 34 is still sitting on our calendar. I move to lay that over until Wednesday, April 6th at the sponsor's request.
Which bill number?
Senate Bill 34.
Senate Bill 34 will be laid over till Wednesday, April 6th. See no objection. Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to lay over the balance of the calendar until tomorrow, April 1st.
Seeing no objection, the balance of the calendar will be laid over until tomorrow, April 1st. Announcements and introductions. Representative Byrd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So members of the House Finance Committee, listen up. I'm going to give us all about 15 minutes to get to committee. And any interested parties in the lobby or in the building, if you're listening, House Finance Committee will meet at 11:40. I'll see you then. Fans of finance, we expect to see you there.
Fans of finance. Representative Harrod.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the Appropriations Committee, as I mentioned, we will be meeting tomorrow, but I do need to go over the bills for appropriations in the Old State Library. We will hear House Bill 1133. We will hear House Bill 1212, 1232, 1249, 1261, and 1265, and 32. I will mention, members, that tomorrow is April Fool's. So we expect some good jokes, especially from Representative Van Winkle, Representative Williams, and that's all we got from that side. So we have high hopes for you all. Thank you.
It is April Fool's. I'm a little nervous about that, but Representative Froelich.
Thank you. This is a real news bulletin. Energy and Environment, 130 LSBA.
If we could have each member of Energy and Environment come down and make an announcement about today, that would be awesome. All right, seeing no... Oh, Representative Luck.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today is Colorado Flag Day. I don't know if you all know that. It is the day that we celebrate this flag, but this is not the original flag of Colorado. The original flag of Colorado was designed and implemented in 1907. It was simply a blue background with the Colorado seal on it. Less than exciting. And so through a series of situations, including confusion over whether Colorado even had a flag, the DAR group came together and said, we need a Colorado flag. And so they got a senator to run a bill, and everyone loved the idea of having a Colorado flag. The only problem is nobody liked the design of this new flag that was introduced in 1911. And so at the last minute, somebody came up with a design that's similar to this. And so it was passed with flying colors. However, in 1929, they finally had enough complaints and concerns because the official colors were not designated in the original 1911 bill, and so everybody was using different shades. And they didn't really like that, and so they said, we need to make sure that all of the shades are the same, so they passed it in 1929. But then there was still issues and confusions because in 1964, they decided it was appropriate to make sure that they provided the proper sizes for everything because the C's were different and there was all sorts of, this is our flag.
It is our flag, Representative Standard, and it is Flag Day.
It is
So it's all
Flag
in
Day.
order.
And so to honor this, I just want to let you know that in that 1911 bill, Senate Bill 118, they provided 10 significations. First, the red C stands for Colorado, a Spanish word meaning red. Second, C stands for centennial because Colorado was admitted to the Union in the year 1876, the 100th anniversary of American independence. The C also stands for Columbine, the state flower of Colorado. The gold center symbolizes the glorious all the year round sunshine, as well as the most precious of metals, gold, which Colorado excelled all other states in creating. The white stripes typify the white metal silver, which also Colorado led the way of producing or mining. The Yale blue stripes stand for the ever-smiling skies of the Colorado Rocky Mountain region. The white stripes further represent the snowy peaks, and the blue and white stripes together give us two of the delicate colors of the exquisite state flower. The interlaced gold and the silver cord symbolize the union and harmony of the sterling people of the Centennial State. So I have a number of Colorado flags if anyone wants to join me in celebrating this most glorious occasion of our flag. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Luck. That was great. I learned some things I didn't know. Any further announcements or introductions? Seeing none. Assistant Majority Leader Gonzalez Gutierrez.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House stand in recess until later today.
Seeing no objection, the House will stand in recess until later today.